Here's what I think is great about this current deal is it allows everyone to save some face, right? But because of that, there are going to be all sorts of people that hate it.
I think that if the best thing to come out of this is a marginalization of the military aspects of Hamas and then a counter move by Israel to like draw down, I think if that happens, then you can look forward to phase two.
Islam will continue to be triumphant until there have been 12 Khulafa, all of them from Al-Quraysh.
The God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. Nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever.
This is my brother, my executor, and my successor among you, so listen to him and obey.
My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting.
Whoso obeys me obeys God. Whoever disobeys me disobeys God. Whoever disobeys my commander disobeys me.
The Lord said to me, You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession.
Two systems of government, two visions for life on earth. Whichever is true changes everything. This is Christ and Khulafa.
Welcome back to Christ and Caliphate. On this podcast, we discuss current events in the Middle East through a Christian worldview framework. And we talk about Christianity and Islam, the Bible, and the Islamic sources, and how they all impact the world around us today. This has been a big week in the Middle East because yesterday, Donald Trump announced his Gaza peace plan has been signed by both Israel and Hamas. I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America, and we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
Okay, so it's on. Let's see if it actually happens. But I'm pretty confident that at least this phase of it is going to go through. People are talking like the hostages are definitely going to come back. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a positive development.
Yeah, I think one aspect which is very beautiful that it is one step towards the peace. Nobody knows what future going to look like or what that final peace deal going to look like. But at least, given that there is a chance of hope, so we just be, I would not say celebrating, but routing that this is the right step and eventually it has to end and there should be a peaceful solution to the problem. And I like the way he mentioned that blessed are the peacemakers.
If you want to lose money, just start betting on like what will happen next in the Middle East.
Yeah, nobody knows what's going to happen next, and it's pretty. Of course, the situation overall, given what happened in the past, or the signs and the treaties that have been signed in the past, either by Yasser Arafat or the previous governments or the previous entities, I think there has been a lot of mistrust with each other. And it is not something new that happened. It had happened in the past. But coming to this point where, after a long series of atrocities, you're coming towards negotiation or you're coming towards making something good out of it, I think is something to be welcomed.
Yes, and I actually think there's probably better odds of this happening than anything else previously as well. And the reason I think that is because A, there are way more people involved in this than I think ever have been. So when we talk about, say, the Oslo Accords, when Palestinians were offered a state previously and trust fell apart in one way, shape, or form, you didn't have all these Arab countries who have either normalized with Israel or on the brink of normalizing with Israel.
Yep.
And then secondly, even say Turkey and Qatar, who have traditionally had a soft corner for Hamas are basically telling them to take the deal. So there's actually kind of a unified, there's basically a unified global front
Mhm.
on this. Even Iran is like, okay, good enough,
Right.
which is crazy.
That is crazy.
So you basically have all the factions agreeing on this. Now, obviously, the Palestinians are going to have a hard time trusting the Israelis, and the Israelis are going to have a hard time trusting the Palestinians, and they both have reason not to trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why. But all these other people involved in this do give this, I think, more chance of actually affecting something than previously.
I mean, wasn't it Reagan who said trust but verify?
Yeah.
Right? Like when I was growing up, there was no way that the Soviet Union was ever going to go away, but it did go away and gave birth to, the Russia of the 90s and then the Russia we have today. I think you're right. I think that the difference is this isn't like simply like another UN thing or another European thing, right? Like you have a lot of people for this in the Arab world. And I think that gets the wheels turning, right? It gets the gears like moving towards a peace. I mean, whether or not, it will stay peaceful, I don't know. I mean, a couple of months ago, there was a war in Gaza, and then all of a sudden, like the United States bombed Iran, and then all of a sudden there were bombs going off all over the Middle East and everything. And you thought, a couple of months ago, like, is somebody gonna like light off a nuke next? Like, what happens now? But things have settled down.
Yeah.
For now, and we shall see. And I think that that's actually really healthy because honestly, like it's extremists who created this. And then on the other hand, there are extremists like who are like progressives who are pushing for like complete demilitarization and all of these other crazy things and wanting to like do flotillas and storm the gates and all this other stuff, and none of that is healthy. None of that is mediated. None of that is well thought out. None of that provides security or acts in the interests of the people who are there. And honestly, I think that if the best thing to come out of this is a marginalization of the military aspects of Hamas, then and then a counter move by Israel to like draw down. I think if that happens, then I think that you can look forward to phase 2. And I think that that's the healthiest thing, right? Like let's not worry about phase 3 and phase 4 and phase 20. I think that we need to get past phase 1 and then see that there's not like a bunch of, it's like not a Spider-Man meme or a Mexican standoff or however you want to do it. Let's just get past phase 1. Let's look at phase 2 and see if we can get to phase 2. And develop some trust, right? Develop some relational capital where, you're like, all right, I see they took a step and we took a step. And then whoever is involved in the process outside of, like Islamic extremists saying, all right, let's keep moving towards that goal, that like pre-agreed upon goal.
Yeah, I think we should give credit where credit is due. I think the credit goes to Donald Trump and his efforts. But at the same time, I think a little bit of credit goes to Hamas as well, the way they're perceived, even though that is clearly said that it means dismantling of Hamas. That means the end of Hamas as a political entity in Gaza. So they know this. They know that this is going to happen. But I think if they're acting because I think what's going in their mind is like, enough is enough. It's been a lot. I mean, they have not anticipated that level of destruction for their own people, right? Israel has gone, that's what I always said, that Israel has gone beyond the level of what you call human actions, or saying this is the human way of dealing the war and stuff. So Israel has gone far that, and that has caused a lot of effect on the people on the other side. So for them also, it is like, it is over. Let's deal with it. So they agreeing on coming out of this is a positive step. So I think, at the end of the day, as he mentioned, like, what is next phase going to look like? I think whatever it is, it has to be agreed by both sides. And on top of that, the beautiful aspect that what I looking at is before there was a talk that Palestinians have to leave Gaza. Right now, it's clearly mentioned that nobody has to be moved out of Gaza. If they want to stay, they're more than welcome to stay. But if they wanted to move, nobody's stopping them from moving.
And they'll be able to come back
Yes,
if they leave.
yes,
And here's what I think is great about this current deal is it allows everyone to save some face, right? But because of that, there are going to be all sorts of people that hate it in one way, shape, or form as well. So the reality is the vision of Yahya Sinwar and the people that launched October 7th did not succeed, right? But what Hamas can say at this point is, hey, we stopped our people from being displaced out of Gaza, and they can kind of like, find something to hold on to that gives themselves and others meaning to what they feel like they did. And here's the thing about something like this. Any peace deal like this is full of compromises. People on the internet and politicians are talking about, well, when Nazi Germany, when we was defeated, we did this, and this, and we put these people on trial, and why can't these people be tried for their crimes? But the reality with World War II is that was the result of a total victory by the Allied powers against the Axis forces. So if you want to kind of enact that kind of justice against an enemy, whether you're on the Israeli side wanting complete justice against anybody who's followed the Hamas cause, or whether you're Palestinians wanting Netanyahu to stand trial, that kind of just human justice requires a position of strength that no one has. And
extreme brutality at the same time.
Extreme brutality, right? Because if you were a faction that had power to protect yourselves, and you saw yourself as being detained unjustly by an illegitimate force, you'd protect yourself. Anybody would. So the key, people who are saying no, if there's no justice, then there's no peace, are never going to have peace in this world.
Yeah, because again, James, the problem is you can't defeat the ideology. It's very simple. I've been advocating for this for a long time. I said this about Taliban's in Afghanistan. I'm saying it for Hamas as well, that Hamas is an ideology. Hamas is not a force imported by Palestinian from outside. It is the frustration of the people. It is when they see themselves as captive within the bounds of their lands that triggers. And of course, on top of that, you add the layer of atrocities, and then you add the layer of religion, and then you add the layer of so many things. Why would not a Palestinian whose family has been killed go and join Hamas? What reason does he not have to do so? And we must also accept that when we talk about total justice or, bringing people to the trial, that with all our efforts, with all Israeli powers, the military powers, they were not able to completely eliminate Hamas. They were able to do some good damage, right? But eradication of the Hamas was not possible because their network in tunnels or however they set up their network was strong enough, right? So I think it comes to realize that, okay, by bombing more and more people, destroying or carpet bombing, the Gaza would eradicate or eliminate Hamas once forever. But at the same time, what cost do we need to pay for that? That's a more important question.
I actually would just push back on that just a little bit. I think that from a lot of the military blogs I read, that Hamas was probably not going to make it to the end of the year with the advance that Israel was pushing through. So it might not exist in Gaza. It probably exists in different places like Qatar and Turkey and everything else like that. But as far as having like a military footprint within the Gaza Strip, there was a lot of talk about like the reason why this was put on the table at the time it was put on the table was because it was essentially like, well, Israel's going to wipe out Hamas's footprint, military footprint, maybe not the people, but the military footprint, right? Like, and control the entire strip all the way to the ocean. So, what you were talking about with like saving face, like this is the time for negotiations, right? Like, you won't survive the end of the year with this, next push that's coming. Like, and
Yeah.
I think seeing that, like, there's like, nobody's gonna come in on a white horse and save Hamas at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, but again, we have to accept this very point to end the footprints of Hamas in Gaza. You have to go beyond the set measures of warfare. You cannot just simply by doing whatever you were doing for last 2 years at this point of time, 1.5, whatever time has been, with a small strip that is not so much big, and for a military capacity that Israel has, should have been done in 4 or 5 months. But given that the war has been dragged, it's not that Hamas is not operational. It's not operational in its full capacity, but it's still there. They did not surrender.
So again,
My idea would have been tipping point, though, right? Like, how many militants have you killed over time? Eventually, like, this would happen to the South in the United States. Like, there was a will to keep fighting, right? But in the end, they're just lining up teenagers because they don't have the troops. They don't have the resources. They don't have the weapons. They don't have, the manpower after a certain point. So
I
that's
think
why they signed
to
the treaty.
synthesize what's being said here. I do believe Hamas could be defeated militarily, but it is like the Hydra thing, right? You cut off one head,
right?
then the ideology allows others to grow up. So you could eliminate Hamas as an institution, and because of the ideas and conditions, inevitably something like it is going to replace it at some point.
I think the cost of it, I mean, like the human casualties, that is the more bigger aspect.
It would have been really bad.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. It would have definitely put Israel and the casualty toll on,
and the international pressure, how internationally people are looking at, is enough is enough. You have killed a lot of people. That is what's more important.
I think that the other issue is that what do you even have left to argue about at that point, right? Like, there's people dead everywhere. The sides aren't going to the table. Nobody's negotiating. Nobody's talking. It's just all right, well, we're going to launch another group of planes, and we're going to do this, and this.
So to land this segment here, there's a couple of things I want to say. First, that in order for there to be peace right now, which is a peace made through compromise, there are going to be people on both sides who get away with things that we feel uncomfortable with them getting away with, right? So Hamas fighters are going to be given amnesty if they lay down their weapons. Hamas fighters that will have, killed Israelis. And there will be no trials of Israeli commanders or of Benjamin Netanyahu by an international criminal court that has any binding power. That's just not going to happen. Israel has finished this in a position of strength. So in order for you to kind of be able to make the most of this world, it's very important that you are able to defer justice to God. Because ultimately, every Hamas fighter, every IDF colonel and soldier, everyone involved in this conflict will one day have to answer and give an account to God. And in the meantime, what we can do here is work to build the best possible world for the people who have survived. And one thing I would say, the ideologues are always going to be busy. They're always going to want to stir up trouble. There are going to be people that want Israel to wipe out Gaza entirely and take over everything. And there are going to be people that want to remove the state of Israel from the face of the map as well. And those people do not sleep. And so what is necessary in this time is for reasonable people of good conscience on both sides of this to work hard, to not simply rest on the laurels of someone else's work, but to kind of get involved yourself, meet Palestinians, meet Israelis, get involved in people's lives, and be a force for good. And this is a good start, but it is not the end. If this is going to end well, it's going to need people of good conscience to get to work and to work hard for the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. We have to have a long-term vision for this. Now we're going to move from the Middle East back to the West And I'm going to read you an article from Sky News. Manchester synagogue attacker Jihad al-Shami shared ISIS videos, ranted and asked for large sums of money, his friends say. This terrorist behavior became unpredictable, friends say, including watching Islamic State videos, asking for money, and sudden bursts of temper. So what this kind of article is explaining is that this guy has basically been kind of like self-radicalized through watching videos on Telegram over the last year. And there's a few interesting things about this guy. One, he was part of a debt relief program from the British government that agreed to pay off all of his debts as long as he didn't, make a bunch of new ones. So he was on a government assistance program for paying off debts. He was employed as an auto mechanic, but kind of lost his job. And he was a polygamist as well. So he was married with a kid, was also on Muslim dating sites, and was married to about 3 women Islamically.
And more un-Islamically.
At the end. So...
And a roid head. Like he was on steroids.
Oh, yeah, he was also on steroids as well.
And other drugs.
Yes. And then kind of the final piece, which I want to discuss here, is that his father, Faraj al-Shami, condemned this terrorist attack from his son. And by the way, this guy is the guy that stabbed the synagogue. It's people at the synagogue in England. And so his dad put out a statement condemning this, but his dad did post on social media on October 7th, like before any Israeli response, by the way. The scenes broadcast by the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade of a group of fighters storming an Israeli army camp using simple means, namely balloons and motorcycles, proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Israel will not remain. So we have a really interesting combination of circumstances here, right? This guy is named Jihad.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the name,
No, I know.
Type Jihad is struggle.
Yeah,
so the name is struggle
for sure. But
there's an irony to it. Come on.
Yeah,
like it's the stereotype with the name. There is like somebody I was joking with, and I said Allahu Akbar, and they said don't use that word. I was like, why? It's because it got negative connotation to it. Allahu Akbar means God is the greatest. So what's wrong with saying God is the greatest? But the negative connotation with the word itself is the same thing. I think.
I mean, number 30 on the Eagles is Jihad Campbell. I expect him to have a big game tonight.
Yes.
Firaz, what shall we name our son? I want him to be a beacon of peace in the world. We shall name him Jihad al-Stabi.
Jihad al-Stabi.
That's wrong.
It's just like you couldn't, like, if he was named that as a movie character, it'd be like lazy writing. It's like, again, I know this jihad means struggle. Jihad means struggle in Arabic. In the Hadith, it means a little more than that.
No.
Yeah, okay. But if you go to Sahih al-Muslim and Sahih al-Bukhari and you go Kitab al-Jihad, this is not a collection of hadith about like self-discipline. It's a collection of the combat verse.
It's jihad, the way I think the jihad word is taken in the West. I think I won't discount the fact that it has some past trauma attached to it, the way it is perceived and the way it's used by militants, the way it's used by terrorists also, right? But the core cause of it, I don't know, we mentioned it, or I mentioned it earlier, that there are many forms of jihad bil nafs, jihad bil kadam, jihad bil mal, jihad bil... So al-qital is what is mentioned in Qur'an and hadith. Whenever it is mentioned about going and killing or going and fighting, it's not just about going and raging. It's more also about defending. That is also jihad. So jihad in a sense of qital is more, but it's more of a generic. For example, in Pakistan, the diapers brand is Pampers, right? So every diaper in Pakistan is Pampers.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the same thing with jihad.
Yeah. So again, I agree with you.
This segment of the Almeida Initiative brought to you by Pampers.
So there's layers of this, right? So yes, you're right. The Arabic word jihad means struggle, and it's not only used in the Quran in that sense, right? So there's the inner jihad, and then there's the jihad in war. I would contend though, if you said the word jihad to anyone for the first 200 years of Islam, the first thing they think of is going to battle. Now, this is so
I mean,
okay, for example,
okay.
Somebody came to Muhammad in Sahih al-Bukhari and says, can you name a deed that equals jihad in its value? And Muhammad's not like, oh, which kind? He's like, he immediately takes it in the context of no, because the you can't be in the masjid for non-stop fasting, praying constantly. The Ghazi is, rewarded for the footsteps of his horse in the battle, right? So again, yes, it is true. No, but even then, right? The way that's different than the way that we think of jihad post 9/11 as well, with like suicide bombers and stuff, right? Because you could basically, the way I would say jihad was used popularly in the first century of Islam would be the English standard for that would be like just war.
Also, the word used, I got to go and look at the hadith that you're referring to, whether the word in Arabic used as qital. Well, a Sahabi came to Muhammad and said, what is the best substitute of qital? Or the word was used as al-jihad, or it was used as al-qital, because both can mean two different things. Al-qital, yes, it is going into fighting mode of war, but al-jihad, which also comes with the article, the struggle. So the struggle can be associated with fighting as well. But I think it's off topic, going off topic.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, to bring it back on topic, how the West and how the modern perception of the word jihad is used.
Yes.
Right? It in a larger context, like outside of Islam, is it's not nuanced. It's what this guy did. It's what this guy was named for, right? Like, so if you're reading it from the outside and you're like, the guy's name is Jihad, and then he went and did jihad, and then his dad's like, yeah, that jihad was like great over there on October 7th. Like, you're looking at it from the outside and you're like, I've been waiting to drop this line this whole podcast. You know how there's like TDS, there's Trump derangement system. This is syndrome. This is JDS. Right? Like Jewish derangement syndrome, or the flip side of that is IDS, right? Like Islamic derangement syndrome. So I think that the modern use of the word matters. Like it's hard to get context across to people who are like, and then the guy named Jihad climbed in the window and stabbed a bunch of people and tried to blow himself up. Like that's how people view it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that the onus, honestly, to get more of what you're talking about out there is on Muslims, right? To sit there and say like, this is like what these words mean, and how a word like Pampers, right, can have like a whole bunch of different, like, I mean, we know that all the diapers are not, all right, maybe not Pampers, but you know what I mean?
and actually, so I would say that so the Muslim response to this since 9/11 has been, well, jihad just means struggle. Again, that's true, but it's kind of like not the whole truth.
Yeah, but you're right. The people flying the planes into the towers are not thinking that it just means struggle.
So
right, or at least they're not employing it in that way.
So and what again? I'm not accusing Muslims who are saying jihad just means struggle as being disingenuous. Again, what they're saying is true, and I know they believe that. But what I think people have a hard time with is you need to really look at the threads that go from today back into the Islamic sources and Islamic history. And again, I'm not saying there's no answers to those things. There are Muslims who have done rigorous responses to those things, but people just don't think about them on a popular level, which makes it seem like people are being disingenuous. And to add to that, right? when people in the West think of jihad in this kind of like monolithic way, it seems like they're being disingenuous. But both sides are lacking a ton of context, which makes people miss each other in this circumstance.
You know, my father brought us here from, Turkey, right? My father's from Afghanistan. And as 9/11 is unfolding, his words are like, that's not jihad, right? So, and, he was pretty vocal about that message, and he would tell his friends, and, whenever he was pointing that out. But I think what wound up happening was there weren't enough people like my dad, because I also ran into people who were like, other Afghans who were like, no, that's totally jihad, right? Turks, that's totally jihad. That's what it is. So I don't think it's easy to sit there and say like there's a set definition, even among Muslims, right? Like, so if my dad is walking around, my dad was, in his 60s, in his 70s, when all of this is going down. And he's got his perception of what this is. And his cultural context is a more modernizing Afghanistan that he left.
Yeah.
But then, what it turns into now is the cultural context is changed, right? Like it's changed, it's not just changed in Afghanistan, it changed in Iran, it changed in Pakistan, it changed in, it's changing in Turkey, it's changing everywhere. So, where are we at with that, right? Like, how do you sit there and shift that perspective away from there's not even a agreement within the Muslim world about what this means, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, to say like, well, it doesn't mean that, honestly, is as tone deaf as saying that all Muslims are terrorists.
Yeah.
Like to sit there and say like, well, it doesn't mean that, is to say like, right. It's the same thing as saying what I just said, right? Like, well, all Muslims must be terrorists. Like it's not true,
Yeah, I think, to address the bigger elephant in the room is I won't say that we should throw Islam under the bus for the actions of this man. Of course, there are tendencies which lead to certain behaviors, right? But I came across a verse from Qur'an lately, and it says, "Inna arsalnaka rahmatul lil alamin," that we have sent you for the blessings of this whole world. Alamin. The word used in Arabic is alam. Alam is the whole world. It doesn't say for Muslims, right? So the context here is a lot of educated means aware Muslims that see Quran or the religion of Islam holistically. They will condemn 9/11. They will condemn innocent civilians killing anywhere in the world. That includes Jews as well. So, but as you were reading, what I see is that is psychic episode that he was going through, and that led frustration in him. And of course, you add that little bit of layer of Islam, because there are elements that he's connected to and that are fueling to. And on top of that, the layer that is going in Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
There are many, many factors that are.
Wait, do you mean that the radicalized guy who was an ex-Freud head who was like just like doom scrolling jihad videos and probably mentally unstable and abandoned his child and abandoned his wife, and like oh, you wouldn't look at a guy like that and think that, oh, where did all of this come from? You know what I mean? Also nothing happens. It's not about demonizing Islam. It's the dude was nuts.
Yeah. So if anyone should be demonized, it should be the British government, because like it's not simply that he was like let in and unvetted, that he was allowed to get away with practicing polygamy.
Right.
And not only was he doing that, he was getting money from the government to like pay off his freaking debts.
Right. Like I looked at that and I keep on thinking like, there are a lot of people, a lot of voices on X right now who are going like posting things like the UK has fallen. You know what I mean? I think that that's a dramatization or whatever, but my gosh, like talk about not having your house in order, right?
Yes. Again, has the UK fallen all the way? No. But there's a guy called Jihad stabbing Jews, and the Anglican Church just elected the high priestess of Baal as the head of the Anglican Church. Right?
And I will say the one thing that surprised me about this entire thing, because you don't hear the royal family talk about a lot, but the royal family like went to Starmer and said, You've got to fix this problem, this anti-Semitism, problem. This is spiraling out of control. What else do they comment on? They don't comment on anything, right?
Yeah.
So for them to actually step up and do that is like, that's a really interesting take.
So in England, right now, like there are Muslim countries that are doing a much better job at tackling these types of extremists than England is. So in the name of political correctness, in the name of charity and kindness, people are allowing ideas like this to grow without doing things to stop them. And again, even if you couldn't catch every single person, you have to give them money.
Right.
Really, guys.
Right.
Staying in the UK, another headline from the Northamptonshire Telegraph. I'm from Northampton, by the way, so this one literally hits close to home. Man 43 charged with attempted arson following attack at Kettering Muslim Community Center.
Yeah. That was unexpected that it was an Asian guy.
Okay, the guy who did it is called Arif Ali Rafiq.
I read the name and I'm like, is a Muslim attacking like a like, I mean, I don't know if he's a Muslim or not, but for them to
So the Northamptonshire police spokesman says Arif Ali Rafiq, a British-born Asian man of Harlestone Road, Northampton, has been charged with attempted arson with intent to endanger life. And
Names sound Bengali to me.
yeah, when English people say Asian, Americans imagine like a Chinese person, right?
Yes.
When British people say that, they're imagining sort of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So this actually, initially when I heard the headline, I thought this is like a different problem of like counter extremists, which for sure exist, but this honestly seems like it's just like probably the same problem as the previous guy,
just on the other side.
Maybe not even on the other side. Maybe he's like,
right. I mean, we don't know, right? So
got some personal issues.
yeah.
They didn't pay his bill or something.
Yeah.
They stopped giving me money.
Yeah.
I think James, I would like to address, because I wasn't able to speak much in the first on that part, but I would say this, religious extremism exists in every religion, right? For example, I would give an example of the guy who joined ISIS was a white American man who followed videos on YouTube or something, and he got his episodes, and he went and fought and died, and his wife was then was here.
We're friends with
Yeah.
But what was his real name?
John Georgeless.
John Georgeless was a white English guy not English guy, by American guy from Texas, right?
Yep.
So I think, these type of things can happen to anybody. But I think, when you add a layer of Islam to it, then it's either, there are two scenarios. Number one, it gets more popularity in the internet. Number one. Number two is that there are elements that are still active within the bounds of Islam. There are interpretations that are, in action. For example, in Afghanistan, in parts of Somalia, say Mogadishu, there are elements. There are Boko Haram's elements. So, you have a lot of realities that you can inspire from.
Yes.
Right. So that also feeds into that sort of problem.
So I would say there's a couple things that, and I want to explain the situation holistically. So if you look at Sahih al-Bukhari, you ask that book, what is the best deed? There's two answers. The first is prayer is the best deed. And then the other answer is jihad is the best deed, and there's no deed that equals it.
But at the same time, James, if you read Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, in both, I'll quote this. A Sahabi came to Muhammad and is asked, what is the best deed in the world? He said, al-jihad.
Yeah.
They said, what kind of jihad? So jihad, it starts with what are the degrees? It's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. What is the best degree of jihad? He said, jihad bil nafs. Jihad bil nafs means fighting for yourself.
Right.
So what is the next degree? He said, jihad bil kalam. You write for something. Then it goes on and on and on and on, and to the last it says jihad. So I think there are, again, this is my argument from a long time. It's you can create a whole reality from hadith book, whatever.
Exactly. So the hadith is like trying to put together a 2,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, and there are 20,000 pieces. And so people find things in the sources to be inspired by, but it doesn't holistically capture what the sources are saying. Now, the other ingredient is which is basically universal, is the idea that martyrdom takes you straight to paradise as well. Right? Now, originally martyrdom is about battle, but that gets expanded too as well, right? Martyrdom gets expanded within the hadith too, so that, if you die as part of a plague, you can be considered a martyr.
Yes.
But one thing in early Islam that is clearly a concern of the early Muslims is a certain standard of societal order and authority structure above these things, right? And so when that authority structure is supposed to be the sort of containment for that, martial spirit, right? It's undeniable that early Islam taught people a martial spirit and prized that very, very highly.
Define martial spirit.
Martial spirit meaning a spirit of conquest and a theology that backs that up, right? But that's supposed to be contained within the boundaries of a state and a strong authority structure that people defer to. In early Islam, when Uthman was assassinated, when the Battle of Siffin happened, once that central authority structure started to weaken, that's when you start to see people just committing all sorts of violence everywhere and bringing chaos. So there's always been, within the soul of Islam itself, a battle between order and chaos.
Okay.
And I think people need to see that.
Can I throw something out there? So how much is this due to like illiteracy, as in the sense of Muslims not like reading the Quran, not reading the Hadith, right?
99.99%.
I mean, right? Like, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about like the Hadith that you were just talking about, right? And the first thought I had was, well, people would argue, well, I've already written, right? We're way past writing about it. Now we just have to go right to fighting, right? Look at what they're doing. We're going to match their vibe. But the other part of it is that how many Muslims have ever even heard that? You know what I mean? Or ever had that like transmitted to them with any kind of specificity. Maybe they heard about it, but maybe it wasn't like, hey, and then come with me and like, an imam going, let's read this, let's talk about it, or something like that. So I think that because of the power of the Ummah, right, and its ability to influence people wherever they are, and the diversity of the Ummah, right?
Yeah, it's scholars. So, I think the blame is on illiterate scholars that do not have the comprehensive knowledge of Islam. I'm not here to defend Islam or say Islam is the best religion. I'm giving the holistic picture.
Right.
And a holistic picture is if you ask Pakistani or like the Jamaat al-Tabligh, the Muslim missionaries, the word mentioned in Islamic theology or jurisprudence is martyrs are those who died in the cause of Allah, right? The mention is cause of Allah. And cause of Allah for them is going and doing mission works, preaching Islam. And if you die, you are ranked as the highest rank.
You get malaria or, some savages kill you.
Yes, but whatever, but at the same time, jihadists use at the cause of Allah is only jihad or like qital, I would say. So
where I'd want to land with this, and this is a lesson that applies to Christians as well, is that it's important to, what a lot of people tend to do is they glorify the past, right? George Bush glorified the World War II generation when he went into Iraq, right? The generation that defeated the fascists and then brought about peace and freedom in the places they conquered. And what a lot of Muslims do is glorify that first generation of Sahaba. And if you're thinking of those stories, if you're thinking about Khalid ibn Walid all the time, then what people may try and do is just directly bring those actions into the modern day. Similarly, if you're reading the Bible, I remember as a kid, I always liked reading things like David and Goliath, and because it's kind of action, and I always found the New Testament more boring when I was a child. But the thing you need to understand, being brave, being righteous, being a hero looks different in every time and place. And you can be inspired by great warriors and people who were part of empires and who led armies. But you need to realize that's not what righteousness looks like in every time and place. You have to figure out the part of the story you are in now and act in a way that pleases God in that time. And you can't get that definition from anyone else. You have to find that yourself by studying his word and reaching out to him. Thank you for listening to Christ and Caliphate. We'll be back next time.